We also have, in the back, we have hats for sale, and the hat says, AWAG, America was always great. We got several back there. We are running low, so I've ordered some more. And there are also t-shirts back there, Resist, for 20 bucks. So if you're interested, again, our supply is running pretty low, so we're ordering more. So did you pick up a sheet in the back with the upcoming events? Well, before you leave, why don't you pick one up? But I'll run through it real quickly. So next Saturday, we're going to have another rally. And this one is going to be a combined rally with the Indivisible group, as well as the Green Valley Democrat Club. We're hoping to get 1,000 people. So next Saturday at La Cañada in Esperanza, 9 to 10. I don't know, it's going to be cool next Saturday.
What time?
9 to 10 is what we've got on the calendar. It'll be all right, 9 to 10. We have had, on the first hands-off rally, we had close to 800, and a week ago we had close to 800. So let's make it 1,000, and it's pretty much a national rally as well. Somebody said that we were on MSNBC News, that they mentioned the rallies in Green Valley. Yeah, cool. We'll try to do it again. Okay, we got the chili cook-off coming up Sunday, May 4th. 43 people have signed up so far, but we got room for 80. So if you're interested and you haven't signed up, Ray in the back will help you with that. We've got some fun things planned, but 10 chefs, so you're going to have an opportunity to taste 10 different chili recipes. Or not. Pick one. I'm one of the chefs. I've never really been known for my culinary talents, but then nobody's died either, so I think you're safe. You're safe. So we're going to have a gentleman by the name of Tim Thorstensen speak to us. He's I don't know that he's an expert, but he's very familiar with Project 2025, and he's going to talk to us about what has already, the Republican Party, what have they already been able to do in Project 2025. So I don't know that that's going to be real uplifting, but it will be educational. So then after that, we've got some fun lined up. We're the next day, of course, is Cinco de Mayo. So our chili cook-off has a Mexican theme to it. We found a piñata, a Trump piñata. Yeah, so you get to whack away at that. And it's going to be full of candy. And it's so big, we decide we can't hang it. So we're looking for a Republican to hold it. Haven't gotten anybody volunteer yet. So that's kind of fun. Then we also are going to have a cornhole contest. We have a squeezy Trump thing. Pass it around. It's kind of fun. It'll get rid of your stress today. Anyhow, you get to throw Trump in the toilet. So, if you haven't signed up, sign up. It's going to be a lot of fun, plus very educational, as I say. Then 2 weeks from today, we've got Kim Curry coming. She is the first vice chair of the Arizona Democrat Party. She'll get us up to date on what is happening here in Arizona. A little bit of a brouhaha in the party on the state level. Let's hope that's resolved itself. But she'll answer questions for us. You know, who's our next leader? Where are we going? What's the message that we want to present? And how are we going to take back the House and the Senate? So we also, on June 14th, jumping ahead, we have a National Rally Day, June 14th. It's Flag Day. And again, we're going to do that in concert with the Indivisible group. It's not only Flag Day, but it's Trump's birthday. So it could be quite fun. We'll see what happens. So keep that in mind. Then also on that same day in the afternoon, Rosanna Gabaldon, our state senator for this area, will come and speak to us. She's just an incredible lady. So, did I miss anything? Anything back there, George, that I forgot?
Just one petition, if they'd like to come back.
Oh, we got one petition in the back, Justice for All. If you've not signed that, take time to look at that. It basically provides legal assistance for immigrants once they reach the court system. Everybody deserves good representation. And that's a petition that we'd like to get on the ballot in 2 years, year and a half. Okay, so yesterday I was looking at my bank account statement online, and I noticed I'd still not received my Social Security check. It was getting a little bothersome to me. So I decided, well, I'm going to call the Social Security Administration office. I went right to voicemail. And the voicemail said, we have been receiving an enormous amount of calls. And due to reduction in staff and the closure of some of our offices, we're just not going to be able to get back to you as quickly as we would like. But you're welcome to stay on the line to the next available agent. Estimated wait time, a little over 3.5 years. Well, I decided that's not going to work. So I thought, what the heck, I'm going to call Siscomani. He says, you know, he's here for us, right? He'll follow up on our problems. So I call, and again, the same thing, right to voicemail. Hi, this is Juan Siscomani. I really don't have to answer your call, and I'm probably not going to because Mike Johnson said we didn't have to. Click.
No.
Well, that didn't go.
Is that true? That's what you have to do? Is that really?
No.
Oh.
Joyce, I have a bridge.
Yeah. I know, I was wondering.
So then I decided, well, I'm going to call Doge and just give them the peace of my mind. Same thing, I went to the voicemail, but there was this sound in the background. And then that's the sound of a chainsaw. Well, he finally comes on and he says, this is Elon Musk. If you think I give a hoot, you're sorely mistaken. Click. Now where do I go? Well, Pam said she would dish out judicial issues on a fair, unbiased manner. And I think it's time the Department of Justice starts investigating all of this stuff. So I call. Same thing, voicemail. Hi, this is Pam Bybee. I'm Pam, that's a good friend of mine, Pam Bondi. I see that you're calling from a very blue area in southern Arizona, so I don't know that I can help you, but I also notice that you've been a frequent user of Act Blue. So I'm going to have someone contact you. I'm glad you called. Click. So now we're down to the president, and that's just about the last person I can think to call. So I call the POTUS, and the voicemail, of course, and this is your king, Donald Trump. I'm out on the golf course right now. Some people say I cheat. Fake news. I do not cheat. But since I'm on the course, I'm not going to be able to answer your call. So why don't you leave your name, your number, and your address, and I'll have ICE get back in touch with you on my behalf. Well, I hang up on that one. WTF. No, that stands for Wine Tasting Friends. So I call my friend Jackie. Hey, Jackie, can you meet me tonight at Easy Street for a glass of wine? Oh, yeah, I know. Oh, really? Well, that's your choice. Sure, I'll put it on my calendar. She too had not gotten her check, and she called the Social Security Administration. She was on hold, wanted to know if we could do a rain check in 3.5 years.
Oh, wow.
So that's my story for today. Yeah? Okay, now let's get some real information, the truth, from our friend Greg Taylor. Greg is an elected representative for District 4 on the Pima Community College Governing Board. He's going to update us on many issues that the community colleges are facing. He's also the Regional VP of Community Affairs at Arizona Complete Health, which is a private company that offers Medicare Advantage, Medicaid, and ACA marketplace insurance policies. Greg, you ready?
Yep. Thank you. I didn't know I was going to have to follow stand-up. Should have had more jokes. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate everybody's time. Again, my name is Greg Taylor. As you might have heard from that, I am the elected elected member that represents District 4. We have the same district as the Board of Supervisors, if you're not familiar with the Pima Community College Governing Board. It is a volunteer position. I am an elected member. I do have a full-time job that supports my 4 kids and my wife and I, so it is not my full-time job at the college, but I'm very honored to be on the board. I was elected in 2022. It's a 6-year term, and I was elected as chair of the board at the beginning of this year, which is a 2-year term by my peers there. So it's, I think, both an exciting time at the college because there's a lot on the horizon and a lot of opportunity and a lot of change, and also an anxious time for all the reasons that everybody else is anxious about things. So I can walk you through a lot of things. I'll do that. I'm not one that says Q&A at the end, so if somebody has a question or you want to hear about something that I'm not talking about, just wave your hand at me and we'll go in whatever direction you want me to go. I'm happy to explain more or go into an issue, or you can listen to me talk if you'd rather do it that way, but I figure I don't need to curse you with that entirely. So I'm happy to listen to issues you have with the college as well. Let me start with walking through some of the things that have gone well in the last 2 years. So the first of which is we have a new chancellor. So the booklets that you have hopefully in front of you, they look like this, or there's some in the back if you didn't have one, is the 100-day report from him. Jeff Nassy is his name. We hired him from Broward College in Florida. He was there for 20 years before he came here. So he spent that first 100 days meeting with not only faculty, adjunct faculty, staff, students, but community leaders, business leaders, elected officials. And so that is a recap of all of those meetings in terms of his findings in that investigative period, as well as outlined in there a number of actions that he's taking with the board's support to address some of those concerns that were immediately raised. I have been exceptionally impressed with Dr. Nassy. If you've ever interviewed somebody for a job, I think maybe even more so when it's such a formal process like bringing a chancellor on, you sort of meet their representative. Like you're hoping that the person they're presenting themselves to be is who they are. And Dr. Nassy is very much that. He's an incredibly genuine, collaborative leader. I think he's an incredibly good cultural fit for the college. He started in his words, he's a recovering English professor. He started his career as an English faculty in Florida before he worked his way up through Broward College. He left Broward as their provost, their chief academic administrator, and then joined us as the chancellor. So he is a leader who involves every level of the college, not just staff, faculty, but students in the community. And I think you'll see that as he continues his tenure as chancellor. One of the exciting pieces on the horizon is we're about to finish up our last strategic plan, which started before I was even on the board. So that will run through the end of next year. So we're going to begin the process soon to build the next strategic plan for the college, which will be at least the next 5 years, if not more than that. And so I think you'll get a chance to see how collaborative of a process that's going to be. And certainly as we have opportunities to provide input, and there will be numerous throughout that process, I would invite you all to participate in that if you so choose and want to have a voice about what happens in the college. Does anybody know what the Higher Learning Commission is, the HLC? They're the college's accrediting body. So the country is divided regionally. There are different organizations that accredit institutions of higher ed. So they're the organization that accredits in Arizona. They're actually based in Chicago, and they have a pretty large swath of sort of the middle of the country that they oversee. So what accreditation allows the college to do is it allows our degrees to be transferable, so that if you take a class at Pima, it can transfer to the U of A or to another college or to another accredited institution. If you rewind 10, 15 years, Pima College had some trouble with accreditation. We were on probation for a period of time. There were a number of things that were going wrong. This was prior to the most recent Chancellor Lambert's tenure. He was brought in to sort of right the ship and did a good job in doing that. So this was our normal 10-year reaccreditation process that started last year. We passed, our reaccreditation went through. There were 2 areas of concern that were highlighted. If you think about it, it's like a giant audit of the entire institution that goes over the course of a year, and so inevitably you have some sort of findings. They've just had issues with consistency in some of our satellite locations and some of our student learning outcomes tracking in those locations. But it's all things that the administration can fix pretty easily. And based on where Pima College was a little more than a decade ago, to be able to get through that reaccreditation process without any significant findings or issues being raised is a big achievement for the college. It's come a long way over that 10 to 15 years. To give you an idea of just sort of the scope and scale, if you're not familiar with sort of who we are and who we serve as an accredited institution. So we have between 34 and 35,000 students enrolled in a degree or certificate program at any given time, any given year. We have 5 campuses across Pima County. We have a number of satellite locations, a lot of dual enrollment locations at high schools. We do classes in correctional facilities, for example. That's some of the other satellite locations that we maintain. And then we have an additional 4,000 students who are in adult basic education programs that you may be familiar with, like that is like a GED program. It's mostly individuals who are working on getting their high school equivalency, doing some of that basic education to either get them ready to enroll in classes in Pima, or perhaps they just want their GED for something that they might be doing in the community. So again, between 34 and 35,000 regular students, and then in terms of total head count, and then about 4,000 that are enrolled in those adult basic ed programs. So in the 23-24 academic year, the college awarded almost 2,000 associate's degrees, about 3,500 certificates, and 119 post-degree certificates. So we do serve quite a few students of all ages, from traditional community college age students, 18 to 24, through adults, through older adults, that are all pursuing their degrees. By the way, if you're 55 or older, you get reduced tuition at the college. So if you are looking to do for some educational opportunities, Pima College could be something that might. So the other areas where the college is doing really well, I would say, is to highlight our relationships with other educational institutions, whether that's transfer institutions, whether people are transferring to one of the, I did run for office, so I do kind of like to hear myself talk, but yeah, all of a sudden it disappeared. So we have relationships with around 85 educational and governmental institutions and about 300 businesses in the community, in terms of helping our students to connect them to careers, helping to connect them to transfer opportunities. And that's really the dual focus that we need to have as a community college. We need to be strong in programs that prepare our students for careers, the career and technical education, the workforce-oriented programs. We also need to have strong academic programs, whether that's a student looking for an opportunity, perhaps a little more inexpensively, to start a 4-year degree, start at Pima, and then transfer to the U of A or NAU or to ASU, or whether they're seeking an associate's degree through one of our academic programs for whatever purposes they want to use that. We need to be strong in both, and I think we're setting ourselves up to be that. There's been a lot of focus in the last few years on workforce-oriented programming, largely because Pima was a little behind in that. If you were to rewind maybe 5 years ago in terms of where we were, we certainly caught up. We need to make sure that the academic side of the house also isn't languishing during that time, so that we can be really strong at both of those. So no matter what our students are pursuing for their educational degree or certificates or whatever their future might hold, that we give them opportunities. And also we need to make sure we're building opportunities for them to find paths that they didn't know existed. So I'll give you an example. We go every year to Washington, D.C. as a board to meet with Arizona's congressional delegation. We always bring students with us every time we go, because we want to put their stories first, make sure that those elected officials hear what's going on in their lives, what their challenges are. 2 years ago when we were in D.C., a student that came with me, young man, he went right out of high school into the Army. When he left the Army, he wasn't sure what he wanted to do, but he felt like he had some technical and mechanical skills, and so he decided he wanted to do air conditioning repair. So he enrolled with Pima College for our certificate program in HVAC, to be able to do that. He told me when we were chatting, he never really considered himself a college student, or that wasn't ever necessarily the path that he was going to be on. But once he got to Pima, he started taking classes. He worked with his academic advisors towards that certificate, and they were like, if you take a few more classes, you can get an associate's degree in industrial technology. That could be, something additional you can pursue for your career. And he's like, yeah, I could do this. Like, I did well in those certificate programs. I can keep going on that path. And so he kept going, and when he was nearing the end of his associate's degree, and he was telling me the story over dinner, we met with the academic advisors again, and they said, we have a partnership with NAU. And you can transfer all of these credits that you have and do another year, and you'll have a bachelor's degree in business. And it'll prepare you largely with a focus on business leadership. So where he started was, I think I'm kind of handy, maybe I can repair air conditioners. By the time he got done, he's prepared to be able to open a business if he wanted to open a business. And so there are lots of entry points, and even when students come to us and maybe their dreams for themselves are here, as they learn and grow within the institution and see what they're capable of doing, they realize they can go a lot further. So there's a lot of power in what the college has to offer. And even people that may see themselves in more of that career technical education path may find themselves in, I guess, more of the academic path as they're going along, depending on what their ambitions are for themselves. Yes?
Where is the college in terms of DEI?
Yeah, so let me tell you our story, because this is the most recent one here. So, as you may have seen, I don't know actually what the K-12 districts down here are doing, but certainly TUSD and others, were asked by the federal government and the Arizona Department of Education to sign attestations. One had to do with DEI, the other had to do with essentially like parental rights and privacy. Those same attestations were sent to us, all the community colleges across the country. Again, they came from the federal government through the Arizona Department of Education. I'll fast forward to the end. Literally 2 or 3 days ago, the board unanimously directed the chancellor not to sign them. But I'll tell you why. So the first one, I don't know how, so there, a lot of people know HIPAA, right? Especially having been through the pandemic and everything else. There's actually another piece of federal privacy legislation that has to do with students that's called FERPA. And I wish I could tell you exactly what that stood for, but it's FERPA. But it essentially governs how institutions of higher learning have to protect the privacy of their students. And it also governs K-12 districts. But the rules are different for K-12 districts and institutions of higher ed. And the law is very clear that when a student is enrolled in a college course, or when they turn 18, and it's either of those, so you could be under 18 and enrolled in a college course, and this would be true, or you could be over 18, that institutions of higher learning, like Pima Community College, have to have the consent of the student to release any information to their parents. That's very clear in federal law. That's different than K through 12. K through 12, they release that information, they would have to have the consent of the student in K through 12. One of the attestations they were asking us to sign was essentially saying that we would allow parents to have full access to their students' information at the college. That would be illegal for us to do that. And certainly we can't attest to something that A, we're not doing, and B, would be illegal for us to do. So that was the first concern that came up. The other concern that came up is the way that the attestations are written. They refer to a very specific term that's defined in federal law called state and local education agencies. Community colleges are not that in federal law, very clearly. They're not that. And in fact, the Arizona Attorney General's office, I think on Wednesday, released an opinion that specifically reiterated that community colleges are not state and local education agencies as the federal government defines them, and are not subject to these attestations. The third issue that we had was around the fact that they were asking us to attest to the fact that we weren't participating in anything that they would consider quote-unquote illegal DEI, but didn't define that term. And so we had a really hard time saying that we could attest to something that we don't know what it means, like what it refers to. Certainly we comply with all Title VI requirements around everything that we have to do as an institution and other aspects of federal law. But it was concerning to us that we would attest to not be participating in something that has no definition, and because it could be easily manipulated to be whatever anybody wants it to be. And the other part that was a little concerning for us just had to do with sort of, I guess, federalism, for lack of a better word. So community colleges in Arizona are autonomous political subdivisions. We have elected boards. I'm part of the one that's here. Every other community college across the state has locally elected boards. we don't answer to anybody except you as voters. The superintendent of public instruction has no authority to regulate us. There's no, like, Arizona Board of Regents, like, that oversees, they only oversee the universities. Yes?
If that is independence, are you credited across county lines from one PC, from one college to another?
We're all accredited separately, yeah. So,
All accredited.
yes,
So,
correct.
because, yeah.
Yes. So we're independently accredited by the Higher Learning Commission.
Still transfer from one college to another.
Yes, the accreditation allows us those credits to transfer for either between community colleges or not. So the argument that was kind of being made by the Arizona Department of Education through Superintendent of Public Instruction Horn was blurring that line of, the Arizona Department of Education doesn't regulate community colleges, and they were sort of bumping their way into that with these attestations where they were trying to do it because our adult ed money flows from the federal government through the Arizona Department of Education to us. That's just how, like, the contractual relationship works in government. But it's just a pass-through that goes to fund us. So there's no oversight role for the Arizona Department of Education in that capacity, and it seemed like they were trying to muscle their way in a little bit to try to regulate more of what community colleges were wanting to do. And at least for our board here at Pima Community College, we were not willing to allow that to happen. So we were trying to maintain our statutory independence and authority as to govern ourselves separately from that. So those were the 4 areas of concern that we had with those pieces of accreditation, those attestations, excuse me. Yes?
I've worked on similar situations where a student was under 18, and by helping them find a resource to get emancipated minor status, it cuts out all the parents' rights, and it cuts out about 9, I'm not a lawyer, but I worked with them on this project, get the students emancipated minor status, and it circumvents, it's a loophole to get around a lot of those. And you probably know this yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the college has a wonderful general counsel. His name's Jeff Sylvan. If anyone ever has met him before, he's been earning his money in the last couple of weeks. I'll say. But we're very cautious about what's happening and cognizant about what's happening, and also will fiercely maintain our independence and our ability to run the college in the way that this community wants us to run the college. Of course, meeting federal law and our accreditation standards and all of those things as well, but we're going to hold fast to that statutory independence that we have as a governing board and as a college. I will say the other thing, though, and I think, and I'm not on a K-12 school board. I just read probably the same media coverage you all have, but part of what I think was motivating a lot of them to sign those attestations was the loss of dollars, especially the loss of federal dollars. Other than maybe the adult ed money, we'll see what happens. We sent a letter this week up to the Department of Ed that said we're going to comply with all federal standards. We're not signing the attestations. We'll see what happens. I will say, though, and one of the things that is difficult in our governance, especially because we're working on finalizing a budget for next year that we'll finalize in June, is we get a lot of federal dollars. So the college has a budget, an annual budget of somewhere between $360, $370 million. 80 million of that is federal dollars. And there's a lot of grant dollars that are in there, but the big chunks of it are Pell, that are Pell grants that our students are using that's paying for their tuition. So that's a big piece of it. Another large piece of it is some of the adult basic ed dollars. There's another large piece of it that the Pima gets dollars as being a designated Hispanic serving institution. It's a federal designation. Unlike what it's called, so the way you get it is that if you're an institution of higher learning that serves a large percentage of Hispanic students, which we do, that's actually the largest racial ethnic demographic in the college is Hispanic students, white students would be immediately following that. But that isn't funds that go specifically to Hispanic students. It's just funds that go into our general fund that allow us to strengthen the institution for all of our students, no matter what their racial or ethnic background is. But the way we qualify for them is because we have a large population of Hispanic students, and we do a really good job in student outcomes comparatively really for those students. In fact, we're one of only 17 institutions of higher ed across the country that have what's called the Seal of Excellencia in Education that's around the programs we have for Hispanic students. So we're concerned. I mean, we're watching the federal level to see what happens with Pell, what happens with TRIO, what happens with something like the Title V dollars, the Hispanic Serving Institution dollars, because if those were to go away, for whatever reason they go away, it could be problematic for Pima. And to put that in context for you, I think talking in a second about how colleges are funded is important, because if you're not following how the community colleges work, so in most places across the country, you'll have a three-legged stool for community college funding. You'll have tuition and fees that are paid by students that are coming in. That's one of the three legs of the stool. You'll have property taxes in the district, same thing we do here, and you'll have state funding. Pima Community College receives no state funding. We have not for a decade or more. The state zeroed out all the community colleges in terms of our per student funding, our regular per student funding, during the Great Recession. A few years after that, they restored the rural colleges funding, but Pima and Maricopa have not received any state dollars on a per student basis for 15 plus years now. So we've been sort of balancing on two legs of that three-legged stool for a very long time. That, I will say, frankly, I can't do anything about it as a governing board member. It's a state legislature decision, but it does bother me, both as a governing board member of the college and, quite frankly, as a taxpayer in Pima County. I have no problem that my state taxes go to support Coconino and Arizona Western and Cochise Community College or whatever. That's great, and that helps those students pursue whatever their educational dreams are. I frankly don't think it's fair that my tax dollars don't support the community college that's in my community. And what it results in is us having to lean more on property owners in terms of property taxes and student tuition and fees in order to fill that gap. So in an environment where we already don't have any state dollars, if our federal dollars are in a place where they become at risk, that can be really problematic for the overall sustainability of the college. Again, there's lots of scenarios that can happen. I don't know what they all are going to be, but it's something we're watching closely. We were in Washington, D.C. in February. We met with all of Arizona's congressional delegation. We talked to all of them, both Democrats and Republicans, about the importance of all of that funding, what it is. Our students that came with us were all beneficiaries of Pell or TRIO, and they talked about how important those programs are for them. And so we're very much hoping that we can keep those whole, because if they start to get reduced or start to get impacted, it can be very problematic for what we're able to do here. I can keep going. Any questions, thoughts?
Has ICE been allowed on your campuses?
No, they haven't showed up. We have, normally the kind of normal process would be is if another law enforcement agency wanted to show up, they would coordinate with so we have our own police, by the way. There's a Pima Community College police, they police our campuses. To my knowledge, ICE has never tried to come on to any of the campuses. If they did, they would hope that they would follow the protocols they're supposed to, which is to coordinate with our local law enforcement. And I don't think we'd be in a position where we could bar the doors from a federal law enforcement officer, but at least we could try to mitigate what the impact might be in coordination. But to my knowledge, we have not been asked, nor have ICE tried to come to any of our campuses. Yes.
Have there been any restrictions in the curriculum or any mandates of what you can and can't teach?
The question, in case anybody didn't hear, was were there any restrictions in curriculum or mandates on what we can or couldn't teach? No. The closest thing to that might have been this attestation, because again, we didn't really know what illegal DEI means. So I guess it could have been intended to do that. I don't know. It's not defined in that term, but I suspect it might be sort of the path it was going down. But no, we're big believers in both shared governance and academic freedom, and we want our faculty to be able to teach in the way that they want to teach, as long as it adheres to our accreditation standards and student outcomes and learning and those basic things. So I think the governing board is certainly behind that. The chancellor is as well. But no, we haven't had any, other than the latest kind of attestation thing. No one's tried to do anything in terms of influencing what's being taught on any of our campuses. Yeah, question, right?
Does community college offer classes online?
Yes, In fact, we have a lot of online students. It was, does the community college offer classes online? So yes, we have a whole division called Pima Online. It actually existed prior to COVID, but it really ramped up during COVID. And we found that a lot of our students do prefer online classes. So we have some classes that are online only. We have some classes that are hybrid, like sometimes the instruction's online, but like a lab or something will be in person on campus. And then we also have traditional on-campus classes. So we're trying to offer courses in the ways that our students want to learn. And especially because, community college students are really not the same demographically as like the university students are. So a lot of our students have families. We have a lot of single parents. We have a lot of working jobs, multiple jobs sometimes. And so the flexibility of those online classes, to be able to do them in the evenings or to have online lectures recorded and then they can listen to them whenever they want to. So that flexibility is a great benefit to a lot of our students. And so we're trying to meet them where they are in a lot of different ways. And actually, if you don't mind me piggyback on that a little bit, but one of the things that we've been talking a lot about is how do we help meet some of our students' broader needs that end up being barriers to them being successful. So for example, a few years ago, the college opened a pilot childcare center on the Desert Vista campus to allow on-campus childcare for our students who are also parents, somewhere to safely drop off their kids while they're attending classes. That is also largely federally funded in terms of that, so that could be something that's at risk. That's part of also why we haven't been able to expand it yet. I mean, we'd like to bring those kind of services to other campuses, but we haven't been able to figure out how to braid together the funding yet to be able to run them. But they're a benefit not only for our students, that they help keep their children safe so while they attend classes, they're also learning labs for our students who are studying early education, where they can go in there and work with those kids. And so it provides an academic experience for our students in addition to childcare for kids of our students. So it really serves both of those interests. But we'd like to expand that to other campuses if we can figure out the funding piece of it. But having no state funding and then this sort of Damocles of federal funding that we're in right now, it's hard to really do much new until we have some more certainty. The other thing that comes up quite a bit is food security among our students. So that's something that the college had started to address internally a little bit. We had some of our staff and faculty volunteering and donating and things to help meet those food security needs of our students. But one of the things that I actually brought was that maybe we can work more with some of the outside entities. So actually starting this month, I think, I helped broker a partnership between Interfaith Community Services and the college. So Interfaith Community Services is going to bring their mobile food pantry to, I think, 3 of the 5 campuses to start out. I think it's twice a month, if I remember right, to be able to not only serve our students who are there, but also the surrounding neighborhoods as well, to be able to help bring them food boxes and proteins and fresh produce and things to help meet some of those needs while they're meeting their educational goals. So again, it's hard in a more scarce funding environment to do some of those things, but we're cognizant of the impact that those sort of social needs and health needs of our students and how they can become barriers to their education, and trying to find ways that we can partner or we can develop programs that might help meet some. Yes?
What are some of the programs that you offer that students might enroll in?
Sure. Well, one of the newest ones that I think is exciting. So the college has a number of what we call centers of excellence. They've been developed over the last few years. The newest one to open is the Healthcare Center of Excellence on the West Campus. So that's going to double our capacity in terms of all of our healthcare programs. So that's everything from nurses to nursing assistants to techs to community health workers to direct care workers and everything in between. We had some of those programs already. They were sort of dispersed in different places around the campuses. We centralized it into a new building, new labs, new everything that's down there. If you walk into one of those floors, you swear you just walked into an emergency room because it's designed to look exactly like that with the beds, and there's dummies, and there's a cadaver lab that's made out of some crazy silicone thing where you can like cut into it and it has all kinds of organs and stuff. There's all sorts of simulators and things. You want to start on those before you start on real people. So that's where our students go, and then we allow them after they graduate to serve. But I'm really excited about that piece. It'll be fully Our grand opening was in January. We have some students there now. We'll be fully online in this fall, and then into perpetuity. And like I said, it'll double the number of nurses we're able to graduate, for example, which is a huge need among the hospitals and other providers here. And quite frankly, if you know somebody who's interested in becoming a nurse, you can become a nurse more affordably at Pima certainly than at the four-year universities, and much more so than the for-profit colleges. So it is a great pathway for someone that wants to get into nursing, or certainly could be a transfer pathway. You know, they could start with us and then transfer to like a Bachelor of Nursing program at the U of A or something like that. We're a much more affordable pathway. You know, if you're in state, it's about $100 a credit hour for Pima right now. One of the, I think, exciting things that I'm proud of, certainly in my first year as chair, the board unanimously voted this year not to raise tuition or fees. We're also set up not to raise property taxes in June as well. So we've been able to hold those steady. You know, it's an acknowledgement on our part, and especially in terms of what I believe, that this is an incredibly disruptive period of time. It's not only one where we're facing inflationary pressures, but so much is changing, and there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of fear about what's going on, there's a lot of stress that creates, and I don't want us to create more. So, you know, and we're able to do that this year. You know, we had to find some savings, which we were able to do internally with the college. People shouldn't notice you know, really any difference in terms of what we're able to do, but we were able to hold steady both tuition and fees and property taxes. That vote for sure will be in June, but we passed a budget framework that won't include any property tax increases for this year. So we're hoping not to add to that stress and anxiety while still serving our students. Yes?
Governor Hobbs has urged that all universities and colleges increase their technical training and skills throughout the state. Is PCC offering training either into businesses, private businesses, and unions to teach the lower technical skills, and say, for instance, like in carpentry and plumbing, and
Yes.
as well as auto mechanics and those type of things?
Yes, so all the above. So if you think, going back to those centers of excellence for a minute, I mentioned the healthcare one, but the others that we have running, we have one in applied technology, and that includes automated industrial technology, automotive, building technology, like the plumbing and carpentry, like you were talking about. It also includes truck driving and welding in there. Those are both certificate and degree programs. We also have our Aviation Technology Center of Excellence that teaches airplane repair and maintenance, we have the health professions one I mentioned. We also have one in hospitality, leadership, and culinary arts, another in information technology and cybersecurity, and then a final one in public safety, which covers fire science, criminal justice, law enforcement, and emergency medical tech programs. Those are the ones we have running as of today. I'm hopeful that as we enter this next strategic planning process, we'll be able to identify more opportunities. I know one that gets talked about a lot is AI. And having a focus specifically in there. We have pieces built in, but we don't have like a formal program built around that, but it is something we may look at in this strategic planning process. But yes, we certainly cover all of that technology part. Yes?
You know, if you guide these kids into the building trades, union building trade, the education doesn't cost them a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, plumbing, steam fitting, electrician, carpentry, elevator, you get a 5-year education for nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
You work as you get, and you're paid a living wage. So why aren't these kids directed out?
So we have partnerships with all of those as well that get them into the like assistantships and the internships and as they go into the trades. A lot of them exit our building programs and work for a lot of the home builders that are here. I think that's one of the biggest employers in that program. So we do have partnerships to help facilitate getting them connected into those as well as taking the classes directly at the college.
They need a retirement.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the building trades will give them that.
100%. And so one of the principles in the Centers of Excellence from their creation was that we don't want to create centers of excellence or new programs that don't pay a family living wage. So that's one of the foundational principles in how we select all of those programs. So you're absolutely right, and all of those trades programs are great salaries. The airplane repair maintenance folks, for example, make good money. The automotive repair folks that come out of the automotive program get hired by the dealerships locally, things like that, they make good money. One of the challenges that we're thinking through, and we don't have an answer to yet, is there are some aspects of, I'll call it like legacy programs, pre-existing programs that were combined into some of these centers of excellence. They quite frankly don't pay all that well. Like nursing assistants, for example, that's part of healthcare. They tend to make, at around minimum wage, maybe around there. The hospitality and culinary program that we have, which is fantastic, those folks do get jobs pretty easily. And so we haven't come to any conclusion yet, but there's been a lot of conversations in the college about, well, what do we do about that? We aren't going to do any new programs that we can't get folks into careers that have a family living wage, but what do we do about the ones we already have? Our kind of interim solution has been what we call stackable credentials. So it allows an individual, for example, who got their CNA certificate through the healthcare system to use all of those credits towards what's next. So maybe they want to be a nurse, a full-time nurse, or maybe they want to be a tech of some kind. So they will be able to bank all the credit that they had for that certificate towards whatever the next associate's degree or whatever it is, and so they can continue to build. And so it allows them some career progression, so they're not stuck at that level for a long period of time. Whether that's sufficient or not, is something that we're sort of philosophically talking through, I think, as a college.
If we can get rid of the rate to work, that's going to help a lot.
Yep.
Arizona's a great to work state. Great to work for us.
Yeah.
That's bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's got to be done.
And we also have good working relationships with like the PCCEA, for example, which is the faculty union at Pima, and we have a staff union as well. We work very closely as a board and as an administration with all of them around working conditions and things at the college itself, in addition to just in the community at large. Yeah, they're good people.
I noticed when I was at the downtown a couple years ago that I'm part of the electronic vehicle group.
Yeah.
And are you putting in chargers at all the campuses?
Yes, there should be at this point. And there was an effort over the last few years to install the solar, which you'll see in like over all the parking lots. And part of that was also going to be EV charging. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head exactly how many are at each campus, but I know the vision was to have them at each campus, and so I can certainly, if you take one of my cards or I can find out for you exactly how many.
And then how much on the solar or wind are you obtaining with your covered parking?
Yeah, I don't know the exact kilowatts, but actually, so on Monday, we have a study session, and one of the things that's on the agenda on Monday is looking at exactly that, about the programs that we've implemented around the solar and some more energy management, centralized energy management systems that the college has put in over the last few years. Some of that predates me being on the board. I can't really take credit for it. It was already there, but we're getting an update on that on Monday. So probably after Monday, I'll be able to answer that question. Or so all of our board meetings, if you're ever curious, are live streamed on YouTube. You can watch them from anywhere. Once they're done being live, they're archived. It's called PCC TV Stream, is the PCC, like Pima Community College TV stream. Okay. If you put that into YouTube, you'll find it. As soon as they're done being live, they're saved, so you can watch them, in double time or whatever if you want afterwards to try to get through them a little faster. But also, please, if there's something that's important to you, we have public comment at every board meeting. You can do that in person. Our board meetings are always at the district office on Broadway in Tucson, or you can do them virtually. So you just need to have 24 hours notice. You go on the website and sign up if you want to do the virtual public comment. The college will send you a Zoom link that you can log into, and so you can do your public comment over Zoom. So if you have transportation issues or whatever, or you'd rather be home eating dinner, I get that. You can certainly join us virtually as long as you just give us, you can just show up on the days of the meetings, but the 24-hour notice is for the virtual one, so they can get you all the links and everything. So please watch, engage. We don't tend to have a lot of people participate in public comment, but we always love to hear from folks if you're passionate about something. Yes, ma'am.
Community colleges have been underrated across America.
Yeah.
I grew up in Ivy League area. I'm like, no way, guys. No. Take out the arrogance. 95% of Americans are up there, 95, trying to earn the money.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Greg, very educational. I appreciate your coming. You'd be surprised. Well, we'll probably see it in the newspapers if you're having financial problems because of lack of funding, but good luck to you. Obviously, You know, our previous First Lady, Jill Biden, was a great champion of the community college, so keep up the good work. Thank you. Thank you very much. Give them another applause. All right.